Love him or loathe him, Bernie Ecclestone is always good for a quote when it comes to the goings-on in Formula 1. The former F1 Supremo was back in the media spotlight this weekend at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and unsurprisingly one of the topics that was put to him was that about Christian Horner. Where does he go next? What does he do next in Formula 1 if he does indeed come back? Let's have a look at what Bernie's been saying here, guys, because interesting theories here. He's been putting something out in the media that I don't think really many people have been hypothesizing about in terms of this being what he's going to do next. Horner, that is, of course. Ecclestone's done in Formula 1. The man's 94 years of age now, I do believe. So let's have a look at what Bernie's had to say about Christian Horner. Christian Horner is still coming to terms with his sudden ousting from Red Bull, according to longtime friend Bernie Ecclestone, who says the former team boss might well not return to Formula 1 at all. Former F1 Supremo Ecclestone was in the paddock at the Hungarian Grand Prix and confirmed Horner remains rattled. He's still in shock, Ecclestone said, but he will gradually come to terms with it and see there are other things to do in the world. I made it clear to my friends that they were way too harsh with Christian, but they had no choice. They made a decision and carried it out. Personally, for my money, and I've said this many times, my personal theory is that they were basically given an ultimatum by the Verstappens, whether that was Max, Jos, maybe Marco involved too. I think it was basically Horner goes or we go. And they chose Horner goes. It was always going to be that, because as big a team as Red Bull are in Formula 1, they are not as big as Max Verstappen. He will win and go where he wants to go. You know, he's only loyal to his father and loyal to Marco. And if his dad says, let's get out of here, he follows, I think. But that's just my personal theory. Get yours in the comments below. Ecclestone also suggested Horner's deeper ambition may have been blocked or at the heart of the problem. What he really wanted from Red Bull was a stake in the team, to be part team owner. Unless he finds someone willing to do that, I can't see him come back. That's not too dissimilar actually to what Adrian Newey's got at Aston Martin. He is a shareholder. He is a member of the board, I do believe, at Aston Martin. I think Horner probably wants a piece of that, to be honest. I don't think Christian will come back to Formula 1. He probably doesn't want to. Horner has been loosely linked with Cadillac and Ferrari, but those doors appear closed, with Frederic Vasseur now staying at Maranello, and also Graham Loudon, of course, being in place at Cadillac. The strongest rumour still in circulation is a possible Alpine buy-in involving Ecclestone himself and Flavio Briatore. Oh, the terrible trio right there. Horner, Ecclestone, Briatore. Oh, God. That is a interesting combination right there. Asked about the Alpine speculation, Ecclestone laughed. Lewis is more likely to win an 8th title than that. You know what? That's actually a sick burn, to be fair. I don't normally agree with Bernie, but fair play. That's actually quite funny. One figure not mourning Horner's departure is McLaren CEO Zak Brown. What a surprise that Zak Brown is not surprised to see the back of Horner. I think every other team principal in the paddock, with the exception of the Racing Bulls one perhaps, probably is glad to see the back of Horner personally. He was, let's just say he was combative when it came to his approach of running Red Bull. Brown told The Telegraph that F1 is in a better place without him. I definitely think that the competition is getting healthier now, Brown said. Of course, there are always political aspects to this sport, but I think that it sometimes went too far before. Certain accusations about our car crossed the line, he said. I'm just looking forward to competing with and against Red Bull again, just as we do against Ferrari and Mercedes, on a more collegial level, that is. I think that it's important for the well-being of the sport that we can work together. That's not a given, but it is important when we are discussing certain topics that we don't think, I'm going to use these things as a political weapon. I think we're in a better position now. Still, Brown isn't ruling out a Horner comeback. He's young, he's a driver, he's got a great CV. He does have a great CV, but he's a company man. You know, he worked for Red Bull for 21 seasons, or 20 and a half, I suppose you could say. You know, he was very much part of the furniture when it came to that, and other teams might be put off by the fact that he's only worked for one team. Other teams might be seriously impressed. Other teams might not be impressed by the accusations around him. There's still that civil suit that's going on. That's going to happen next year, apparently, in the UK. It's being brought to a court, so I think a lot of teams, to be honest, will be very much hands-off until everything gets sorted out when it comes to that, because the last thing they want is for them to employ Horner, presumably on a massive wage, going off of what Bernie says, as a part owner of the team, which, to be honest, I think he wanted that at Red Bull. Yeah, he was the CEO of Red Bull as well. That's the thing, you know. So he wasn't just a team principal, he was much more than that, and he doesn't want to come back to Formula 1 as anything less than that. Only unless he's in one of the very, very top teams do I see him potentially just going for a team principal job. I do see what Bernie is saying when it comes to that, but I don't see him going to Ferrari. He's definitely not going to Mercedes, and he's definitely not going to McLaren. He's obviously never going to go back to Red Bull. Aston Martin, doubt it. But imagine if we get Horner, Verstappen, and Newey at Aston Martin. 2027, it's happening. That's most likely one I could see personally, and I think that is a big stretch. He may just want to go back to being like a team owner. You know, that's what he did. That's how he got into management, as it were. You know, he formed his own team, Arden, I do believe, in Formula 3000, what is now Formula 2. So yeah, you know what? I kind of see what Bernie's saying. I think he's got a point, to be honest. Do not see him going to Alpine in a month of Sundays. The man can have the best relationship possible with Flavio Briatore, but even Flavio right now, there are definite big question marks around his integrity. I mean, there always has been, but just look at my video on the Epstein links. Absolute insanity. But it could well be true. It could well be true. The man could well be linked to Epstein, which, you know, as someone who runs a Formula 1 channel, I didn't think I'd be talking about that. I didn't think I'd be talking about him. But here I am. And there Horner is, out of a job for the first time since 2005, actually even before then. The man's been constantly employed as far as I'm aware. You know, he was a driver, then he was a team owner, then he was a, team principal for Red Bull. He's done that for 20 years. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, guys. I don't expect anything to happen sooner when it comes to Christian Horner, because the man's going to have a very long gardening leave. You know, he's got to have at least until the end of this season, maybe even longer. The last thing Red Bull want to be doing is the last thing that Red Bull want to be doing is Horner being allowed to go to other teams and share the state secrets, share the family jewels, as it were, all the secrets that Red Bull have to give them an advantage. That's the whole point of gardening leave. So, yeah, I don't see him coming back anytime soon to F1. If he does come back, maybe Aston Martin. I mean, that's pretty unlikely. But get your thoughts in the comments below. What's he going to do? He could just easily just retire and just chill out. I've been talking about Perez and how he might not come back to Formula 1 because he wants to spend time with his family. Maybe Horner wants to do the same, Maybe he wants to spend more time with his secretary, allegedly. No, he's not going to do that. But anyway, like, share, comment, subscribe as always, guys. Have a great day wherever in the world today, and we'll see you very soon.